guys, welcome back to the podcast. I am sitting here with Joy Metalios, and I'm super pumped that you carved out a little bit of time to hang out with me. Joy,
well, I'm super pumped that you asked me, Byron.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Joy is a absolute killer in the Greenwich Fairfield County market overall in Connecticut, right? Just Fairfield County?
Fairfield County, yes.
Yeah. How big's the team? Give everybody a little background on your team, kind of how you're set up, I know you're in different spots besides Greenwich. Give us a little background.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm the team lead, and I have 12 people on my team. We have a full-time transaction coordinator, full-time marketing manager, and full-time assistant, and then everybody else is a licensed agent, and they all list and sell. So
I really I want to get into a little bit of that.
Yeah, sure.
That's how we roll too, where our team agents list and sell, which is different than a lot of teams, right? I mean,
yes, yeah.
And for a little context for people, Joy and I are both in what's called Team Plus for Tom Ferry.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, there's probably a lot of Tom Ferry peeps watching this, but if you're not in Tom Ferry coaching, it's basically the highest level where if you've got a team, you're going to be in that level of coaching. And a lot of the teams in these masterminds or in that group are not set up that way. They're set up where, you've got buyer agents, you've got, seller agents. So tell me a little bit about that dynamic. Why did you decide to have a team set up where agents can list and represent buyers?
Yeah, so I guess our philosophy is that everyone should be able to do what everybody else does. And so even with my support roles, everybody is cross-trained. So there are about 3 different people that can do the transaction side and do it well with all of our, lists on the Trello board of what you do when a listing comes in, list to close. And same thing for the marketing manager. I'm trying to cross-train him as well because right now he's the only person that knows how to do all of that. So I think it's important to have that cross-training because people go on vacation and everything else. As far as the buyer's agents being listing agents as well, I would say the majority of them start out as buyer's agents, but they're calling expireds. They're trying to get these leads and they're converting them, and they deserve to have part of that, I feel.
I absolutely agree with you. And I've always gone back to this. How do you represent a buyer all the way, right, to your most capabilities if you don't know the other side at all, right?
Correct. Yes, you have to know exactly what the seller is thinking, especially when you're negotiating, because you have to be able to explain to the buyer, well, this is from the seller's point of view.
No, that's right.
Yeah.
So before we get too far, I got a whole bunch of stuff I'd love to ask you. And I know we got limited time. I want to know a little bit more about the market that you're in, Greenwich market, Fairfield County. I think when people hear Greenwich, they probably have one perception, but tell us what's going on in 2019. What's the state of the Greenwich market?
So the state of the Greenwich market is inventory is very high, higher than it's been in a while. We not only cover Greenwich, but we cover, like you said, up to Fairfield, Connecticut, Westport, and then we also cover some Westchester County. What is happening that we feel is that our pool of buyers is typically from New York City or Westchester County, and we have a lot of people that are circling our properties because they want to escape those taxes, but they're not able to sell yet. Mm-hmm. So then we have a buildup of inventory, and we have buyers that want to buy, but they're just not ready yet.
They're not ready, and they're coming from those 2 markets, Manhattan and Westchester.
Correct.
Okay.
And they need to sell.
Okay.
So, a lot of our friends that work in Manhattan, they're saying it's never been like this, where a property under $1 million would sit on the market.
Right.
And now it is. So we're running into a little bit of that. That said, we've 14 sold and pending already, end of March. And that's a lot considering that there are only 657 single-family home sales last year in Greenwich.
Wow.
So we do have a good chunk of the marketplace, but properties have to be priced correctly.
Greenwich has always, correct me if I'm wrong, the buyer pool has really always come from Manhattan and Westchester, or has that not always been the case throughout your career?
Yeah, so we get a lot from Westchester and Connecticut. We also get a lot of relocation people. So people coming from California, Atlanta, as well as sometimes they're coming down from where you are because they want to get closer to the city.
Yep.
So, yeah, they come from all over.
And so Connecticut, for those people that may not know, Connecticut certainly hasn't been, in the spotlight, like in a good way, right?
Yes.
In a positive way overall. What do you see for the future of Connecticut? It's an old New England state. Greenwich is a place, as you mentioned, that people have historically raised their families in,
Yes.
while commuting to the city. What is the future for Connecticut?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. So I feel like a lot of our friends that work in areas like Nashville or Atlanta, I mean, they are booming. And when they tell us
Atlanta,
about,
absolutely.
days on market, and they're like, if something's on the market for more than 2 weeks, they're freaking out.
Yeah, they call it hours on market in those markets. Absolutely.
So we're nothing like that. And unfortunately, it's not like big businesses are coming to Connecticut right now. So I do feel that at the same time, we are, at least where I am, we're 45 minutes into Manhattan. So it's a great place to raise your family. It's a beautiful place to raise your family. Great schools, great community. So I feel like we will always have a buyer pool, and we will always have a rich community. That said, the days of the 20,000 square foot McMansion homes that we have further in our North Country, they're sitting, and they're sitting for years. And yeah, when we tell our friends that, they're like, what? A house is on the market for years? And it's, years. And unfortunately, those are the houses that were built by the baby boomers.
Right.
And they're massive, and they're decorated to the T's. And so someone walks into a 20,000 square foot house, and they're like, oh my God, I have to redo 10 bathrooms and all of this stuff, and nobody wants it. So
yeah, and in most markets, 20,000 square foot homes is not super common, Joy. Like, right? Like, you understand that?
Right. Yeah.
How many homes do you have right now on the market that are over 10,000 square feet that you guys have? Or
inventory.
Or are you trying to stay away from those that are like that big because the buyers don't want them?
Yeah. So we typically, unless they're going to price it correctly, we don't even want them.
It's like that bad, because you just know there's not any buyers looking for 10K up on their square footage.
Correct. And these are homes that are also further from the train. So we're finding that everybody wants to live closer to the train, closer to town, which makes sense. Yeah.
And you don't see that changing even through the next cycle. Like, people are going to want downtown, close to the train, close to, like the action for the foreseeable future.
For the very foreseeable future, I think everyone wants to be closer to town. That said, in Boston, how we were talking about driverless cars and flying cars and different types of transportation, high-speed trains. I think that those houses that are further away and that are harder to get to will become desirable again, because it will be easier to get to them. That said, I don't know if a town like Greenwich, Connecticut would ever change the zoning laws, because I feel like in California all my millennial nephews are living with 5 different people in one house, or 6 people. I could see that happening in a town like ours with these major big houses, but I don't know if the town would allow that type of zoning to happen,
And historically, how has Greenwich been on zoning and changing the rules and regulations there?
It's a conservative town, so it takes a little while. Yeah, it's hard to change.
So, we're talking, what's your average price point, too, by the way?
So it's about 1.8 to 2 million.
1.8. Yeah. So for most people, that's like super luxury if they're comparing it to their market.
Right. Mm-hmm.
If someone wants to crack into the luxury market, and let's take it from the approach that they're a new agent, okay, and they want to crack into the luxury market, what would be 1 or 2 pointers that you would give that person to crack into the luxury market and avoid the lower price points?
Yeah, that's interesting, because I've always felt that we service everyone. So, because someone asked me this today, I just came from a listing pitch that was $5 million listing, and he said, well, how are you going to market my house differently than, say, a condo? And my answer was really, we do the exact same thing for every single listing, because we want to make sure that they have 5-star service. Now, as far as a new agent breaking into the luxury market,
do you think that hurt you with him? Because he was $5 million. He's like, well, geez, I was hoping for something.
No, because I showed him our systems. I showed him our Trello board. I showed him everything that we do. And he's like, okay, that's a lot more than my last agent.
I like that you showed him your Trello board, which a lot of people are familiar with Trello, are thinking, well, that's a back-end system. You go into your back-end systems on the computer, like on the laptop or on the iPad, and show them exactly what you're doing on the back end.
Yeah.
I think that's super smart.
I also show him exactly how a listing would look on Zillow, and I show them exactly what's going on. I'm I've been a premier agent for so long that when my listings pop up on Zillow, I'm the only agent that pops up.
Ooh, you're grandfathered.
I'm
Joy.
grandfathered,
Wow.
yeah. Whereas
Look
other
at that.
agents have four.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
So that's something that's very visual, and I can show them. I can also show them exactly how much I spend.
Well, our friend Jill Biggs, you
Yeah,
know Jill,
yeah.
she says the day Zillow takes that away from her,
She's done.
She is done. Done. Whether that is true or not, we'll find out. But that's a good thing to have.
Yeah, yeah. I think showing them as much visual is great. You know, they because they don't really understand. I think that was interesting in my presentation today. I said, unfortunately, when you spoke to your last agent, you didn't really do the due diligence to find out like how many expired listings they had last year. They don't know how to ask that question.
And so before we get to the 2-pointers for the new agent that wants to break into luxury, because I do want to go back to that, but I'm really interested in this. You're controlling the presentation from start to finish. Am I correct?
Absolutely. Yeah.
What if you have somebody, so you were presenting and you were showing and you're showing the back end and you were going through even the last agent, what they had for sales and all this kind of stuff. What if they just don't want to see the presentation? What do you do to kind of reset and get control?
Yeah. So actually, I just started this this year, and we actually send out an iPad with a pre-listing on it. And so it's a Keynote presentation that has...
You send the iPad to the house?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I pick it up at the listing presentation.
Got it.
So it will show my days on market versus the rest of the town. It shows what my, list to sales price is. It's kind of like, it has a whole video about our team. It has a lot of information about what we do differently. So I kind of walk in the door and it's cut down my listing presentation times in half.
Smart.
Yeah.
What were your times and what do they know?
Usually over an hour.
Yeah.
And now they're 45 minutes to a half hour. Yeah.
And they have to take the appointment because you have to get your iPad back.
Exactly.
Like,
yes.
I
know.
really like that. I'm probably going to steal that. That's pretty smart. So,
but breaking into the luxury market, that's an
I love those 2
example
pointers.
of like how you
That's
have
a
to
great
differentiate
example. Right,
yourself,
absolutely.
Because if someone is asking 3 different agents to come in and present, sending an iPad is a lot different than just walking through the door.
And if you have the opportunity to send the iPad, I think what most newer agents or even agents that are trying to transition into the luxury market are going to say right now is, well, that's great, like Joy. Like, what if I don't have any of the contacts or connections, right? Everybody always falls back on, well, she does so many deals in the luxury price point because of her connections, because she's at this club or he's, friends with so-and-so. So what about the agent that's saying, well, I don't have any connections? What would you do then?
So one of the things I would always tell my agents to do is they should do as many open houses and higher price points as possible. Because if you do a kick-ass open house, like a mega open house, and someone walks through the door and sees that you're hosting it, they're just going to assume that you're the listing agent. And then you can develop a relationship with them. Luxury is a little tough because some people don't even want to deal with it because it is longer days on market. And I tell my agents to just take anything that they can get.
Yeah. Oh, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Working every price point is smart because you're not diversified if you don't, right? So if the luxury market is not doing well, you're going to be susceptible to that market, right? And if you're not able to dip down to the lower price point, the medium price point, that can hurt you, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I like that. I like all your agents are working different price points, and I like the tip there of going out and doing the open houses. You've got to put yourself in the environment of the luxury buyer or seller, wherever they're hanging out. You've got to be there. You can't expect to do luxury deals if you're not around those types of owners, right?
Exactly. And it's kind of like, how Tom Ferry said to that new agent at the last meeting, he was like, you got to dress the part. Like, you're a 22-year-old punk. You got to, Debbie told one of my agents to get some glasses so that she looks older because she's only 23. You have to look a little bit more mature, and yeah.
What's the craziest thing you've done to connect, like, with a seller or a buyer, whatever it may be? Have you done anything crazy to, like, make sure you build that rapport, because we know how important that is?
We definitely always Google our clients and find out, and if there's any type of school or anything that you can connect with them, we always do. It's kind of hard because it's like you don't want to be like, I'm stalking you, but at the same time you want to try to gather as much information so that you can subtly drop some hints. But yeah.
What's been your, like, what's your niche? Is it expireds? Is it going after, new development? Like, what's your niche in the market that you get over and over and over again?
So we get a lot of repeat business, referral business. We're really big on our, we just did our pop-by calendar. So kind of like Karen does.
Yeah.
And we just ordered, I think like hundreds of those peeps. And we're doing a card that says, send your peeps to our, have your peeps call our peeps.
Yes.
And we're never too busy for your referrals. And so we do things like that. We have a big client appreciation party. We always do the pie party. In fact, one of my agents, Jen, she just got a referral from someone else. And the first thing that the guy said when she started showing him houses was, I can't wait to get my pie. So our pies are very famous and they're delicious.
They've got their own brand.
Yeah. So that is a big part of our business. And then Zillow leads. We actually do a lot of online leads with Ylopo and Zillow. And then we make sure that nothing ever falls through the cracks. Yeah.
All right. So that's interesting that you're a good portion. What percentage, and roughly, you don't have to have your like...
One third. And then
a third on Zillow.
Yeah.
Are you concerned at all about that 33%, the Zillow 33%, over the next 5 years?
No, because we happen to be dominating right now, like Jill. And so we just got the best of Zillow thing. So we have a very high rating. And we work hard on role play and getting my agents to make sure that they don't let a lead go away. And always just coming from a place of helping. Everybody on my team has a binder. It's called a success binder. And they have to write every day what their affirmations are, what they're grateful for. And then they have to check off, did they role play and, all these things. And it helps to get them in the best mind frame before they hit the phones.
How many agents again?
10.
10 agents.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And role playing together and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
The Zillow scripts, everything.
Yeah. Like you do too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We definitely do that. 100%.
No, because my agents role played with your agents and they're good. Yeah.
Good. I love that. Love it. All right. So you're not worried about Zillow. Now, see, I wouldn't be worried, right? But I keep telling agents that are heavily invested in Zillow to focus some of that money into their brand, right?
Yeah.
So how important is building your brand in your community? And I've got a pretty strong feeling that you have a really good brand there. But how much investment are you going to make into your brand over the next 5 years?
So we invest a lot in our brand. Everybody in town knows about us or knows our name. We do a lot of community service work as well.
Okay.
We're also doing the American flags for Memorial Day.
Nice.
And I have 6 interns working for me in May, which is great.
Wow.
And they're going to start a program called Greenwich Loves.
Yes, we need to figure out what she's doing to get 6 interns. We could use 6 interns. Okay.
Yeah, and they're all smart and excited.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So we're going to do this this event called Greenwich Loves, and we're going to have local charities come and pitch themselves, and we'll have wine and food, a cocktail party, and nothing about real estate, but it's all about just getting other people involved in the community. So
Love it. All right, Joyce, we're going to wrap this thing up.
Thank you.
As a team, I got one last question for you, right?
All right.
Because this is, I think, something that can bring a lot of value to people. You're a team leader. You said 10 agents. You have a huge staff, right? How many people on the staff again? 2 people on the staff. That's still a big staff when you got 10 agents. And when you have 6 interns coming in, the problems are even going to increase, right? You've got about 20 people that are asking you questions. So if someone's going to go out and build a team for themselves, what would be your advice? Where do they start from that point?
I think they have to start with a great assistant, right? I mean, that's first and foremost. I think, it's really all about culture and making sure that you have the right people in place. It took us a long time to get to this type of team. We used to have an A team and a B team, and I can say this because I know my B team is never going to watch this. So. And it's weeding out that B team.
Make sure the B team sees this. I want the whole B team to see this podcast.
So now that we are only A team, we are able to fly so much. Yeah, we're able to fly so much. So last year was a weeding out year. We got rid of 4 agents. So yeah, and so I think it's important to have the right people in place.
Is addition by subtraction a real thing? Is that a big thing for you?
It's a huge thing. Yeah.
I agree with you. Protect the culture.
Yeah.
Joy, really appreciate.
Of course. Thank you so much.
And your time and all your knowledge. If anybody wants to reach out to you, we're going to link it up in
Great.
YouTube or wherever. But if you're listening on the podcast and somebody wants to connect with you, where's the best place to do that?
So we have a website, metaliosgrouprealestate.com.
Great.
Yeah. Thank you,
might
Byron.
you might have to drop the spelling on that. We're gonna have it linked up.
Metalios.
There we
Great.
go. And we'll have it linked up. Joy, really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And ask us any questions in the comments, anything you want to know. If it's something about Joy or something about the topics that we discussed here, put it in the comments and we'll get back to you. Hey guys, thanks for watching the video all the way to the end. I really appreciate all your engagement, all your comments, and if you like this content, if you want to see more, please, I've got 2 videos linked up here, or hit the subscribe button so that you never miss a video again.